Hello everyone, my name is Amber. Welcome to my channel, Amber Reads Romance. Today I'm here with my weekly wrap-up. I am going to be going over all the books that I read for the last week of November. So I read 8 books this week, pretty decent week with Thanksgiving around and family and everything. So can't wait to dive into these because I do have a new 6-star to talk about. So let's go ahead and dive into my weekly reads. Okay guys, so I'm still kind of recovering from Thanksgiving. Hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving for those of you who celebrate. I had a lot of food. We had a lot of leftovers, a lot of pie leftovers. So I'm just kind of recovering. Need to stop eating all that stuff right now. So anyways, hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving. I had a pretty good week. I read 8 books, which is pretty good with the holidays around and family and everything. So let's go ahead and get started. The first book I'm actually going to talk about is one of my favorites this week. And that was actually a 12 rec from 12 friends for the year. And this is probably a book that I might not have picked up myself. So I think this 12 rec from 12 friends is really amazing. It gets you to read outside of like stuff you usually pick. So I'm definitely going to be doing it this next year too. So anyways, I read Never Duke Well. I'm hoping I'm saying that right. But anyways, it's basically like Never Duke Well. But this is by Alexandra Vasti. And the reason I probably wouldn't have picked this up is I'm not really into the cutesy cartoon covers and stuff like that. I usually just stay away from those. And I'm glad I didn't because this is such a great historical romance. This is a new to me author. I've never read Alexandra Vasti, so I am definitely going to look at more of her stuff because I have a hard time finding new to me great historical romance authors. So I'm always excited when I find one that just hits it out of the park. And this one was just so adorable, sweet, funny, like sexy. Like there's some really good spice in this. So I really fell in love with this. So this was actually wrecked by Mia Reads Romance. I follow her on Instagram. So thank you, Mia, for recommending this because I loved it. So in this book, we have Peter Kent, and he is actually from America. He was raised in America, but his father, was a duke, and he ends up inheriting the dukedom because I think the other sibling had passed or whatever. So it's basically going to him. So he actually grew up, I believe, in New Orleans. Like he lived in America, and now he's come to he's the Duke now, and he actually has a couple half siblings that he wants to get guardianship of, and he's really having to go through it to try and become their guardian. He has to kind of go through the courts and everything, but it's going to be even more difficult because the guy that's like kind of going to be in like deciding that isn't going to be very accepting of some of his. He doesn't have crazy scandals, but he does things. He's, American. He's more brash. He's, makes decisions that are always the best per like their society norms. So he kind of needs help with his reputation and all of that. So he's actually kind of befriended and met her before is Selena. And she has she's like a really sweet, she likes to fix problems for people. And she really liked him. He was really nice. And so she thought, one of the best ways that they could help him is to maybe set him up, get him engaged, because the guy that's deciding his court case or whatever, he actually fell in love with his wife, kind of took her off to get married really fast. And it was actually a love match. And so she thought, why don't we find you a fiance that you marry really quickly, and it'll kind of sway him into your romantic side and help you to have a wife and everything like that. So she's trying to find him, and she's trying to play matchmaker. The problem is her matchmaking isn't going according to plan, and she is really likes him. They have such great banter and chemistry together, but she doesn't consider herself an option because she actually has a big secret. And that's that she has this like secret kind of erotic library that goes to women and everything so that they can be more knowledgeable about sex and mistresses and things that go on. So she had like previously, I think, had a guy that was pursuing her, and he was like had a mistress, and she was pretty upset by that, and just different things like, you know, women are in the dark about certain things, so she wants to provide that to women. And so if this came to light, which it's pretty close to coming out, she knows it would ruin everything for his to get guardianship of his siblings. So she just doesn't think she can be an option. But they're going to get in kind of a position where she's going to have to marry him because their chemistry is on point, and they may get caught in kind of a compromising position. So now they're going to have to get married. And then how's that going to play out if her erotic library is like, you know, it comes out that she's the one that's running it. So there was just so many cute, like the matchmaking, their outings together. There was so many sweet moments with like his half siblings who are kind of standoffish with him because they've been abandoned multiple times. And so he has to like really prove himself to them. It was just so freaking sweet. So I loved this, and I loved that there was a part where I was expecting this third act breakup or her to like abandon them when it's coming close to her being revealed as having that erotic library, and you're kind of expecting this third act breakup, and it doesn't play out like that, and I freaking loved it. These two have such amazing communication. They're partners. They're like a perfect match for each other. The spicy scenes were amazing and that's what I mean by these cartoon covers are very like, I don't think they market well because somebody might get this and be expecting a cutesy romance, and this definitely has spice in it. So I love this. It was emotional. I got really attached to all the characters. There's a trigger warning because his brother did die from consumption, you know, at a very young age. So he does have issues with that. And also there is a child sickness that pops up later that is very, very intense and puts him really through it because of his history with that. So just a trigger warning for that. But it was very beautiful and emotional. So no surprise here. I basically decided to give this one 6 stars because it was very unique. It made me just feel good, and I feel like historical romance is just not getting the attention that it deserves. And we've kind of just focused on dark romance and like the, you know, contemporary. And it's just great to see like a newer historical romance that is amazing and beautiful and romantic. And I just loved it. So I gave this 6 stars, and then I gave it 3 chilies because the spice was on point. Okay, so my next book was not so great. I read Out of Time by Beth Flynn. This is the second book in the 9-minute series. I really liked 9 minutes. It was very interesting, very unique. We had a girl that was basically kind of kidnapped and taken to this MC guy, and he had been basically kind of watching out for her since she was a young child to try and protect her and keep an eye on her. But then when she's like 15, 16, she gets kidnapped, and then he makes her come live with his MC, and he eventually marries her and makes her his. So there's a lot of underage crazy stuff going on. But what I liked about it was very different. It was unique, and she also had a very good connection with like this younger guy that was in the MC. His name was Tommy. And so in that book, like the guy she married, Grizz, ends up getting executed. And so then you kind of find out she was, you know, married to somebody else, and it's somebody we like. And so this is the second part because stuff gets revealed in that might have big reveals, which I don't want to give away because it's going to ruin it for you if you do want to read this series, because a lot of people do really love it. But I guess I'm going to have to kind of give some spoilers to explain why this didn't work for me. So I'm going to put spoilers up just in case you don't want to know what's going on here. So she ended up marrying Tommy. And Tommy, she finds out in the end of the first book that is actually Grizz's son. And she didn't know that. And also it's kind of revealed that Tommy may have like done some stuff to help Grizz get caught and all that kind of stuff. So we're kind of left in a weird place in that cliffhanger. And in this, it's like spends so much time doing all these flashbacks to like Grizz's childhood, Tommy's childhood. Like you're seeing stuff through their eyes throughout the history and everything like that. And just kind of dragged on. But the thing that pissed me off about this book was that I loved Tommy. I'm in the minority. Everybody loves Grizz, but like I loved Tommy, and he ends up not having anything to do with why he was like arrested or anything. You know, he did do some shady stuff, but he was totally in love with the heroine, and she like, you know, ends up marrying him. They have a kid together, all that kind of stuff. And so then at the end, we kind of find out after they resolve all their things that Grizz wasn't really executed. So he's alive. And so now I'm like, oh, so you're going to do a love triangle, and I bet she's going to end up with Grizz. So I ended up looking up Goodreads spoiler reviews for the third book because I was really pissed off at the end of this book. And it turns out she's going to end up with Grizz, and like the stuff that they said was just so fucking stupid and it sounded horrible. So I was like, I'm done. I'm not continuing. And it takes a lot for me not to continue a series. So I was pissed. And then there was this over the top plot revealed at the end about like like Grizz having ties with, it's not even CIA. It's like above CIA, like a secret group that could foretell big events that happen in our history. And I'm just like, what the fuck is this? Like, it's so out of place from like an MC romance that it just didn't work for me. Okay, so anyways, that's the end of the spoilers, but basically didn't like the ending, thought it was over the top, didn't fit an MC romance. It was a lot of wasted time, and I feel like the third book's even more wasted time, like it's just drawing it out. And I wasn't on board for what the story is going to go to in the third book, so I will not be continuing this. So I ended up giving this 2.5 stars, and I was pissed. So there it is. Okay, so then we had our buddy read, and this was Embers in the Snow by Carven, and this was basically wanted to try something different, like a fantasy. This is kind of paranormal. It's a vampire romance. He's a vampire, she's human, and it's like kind of like an arranged marriage. You can see we had a disaster for Buddy Read, like the live show. My internet was completely down up where I live, like not even slow internet, it was down. So I was late getting us on. I had to drive into town to get to like log into their Wi-Fi. And so it was just a disaster. But we basically talked about this book, and nobody really liked it. Like we had a DNF, like 3.5 star, maybe 2.5 stars. Like they did not like it. I enjoyed it. So I was definitely on the other side of this. But what we have is Carven and Finley. And Finley is basically kind of just randomly told by her father that she's going to be in this arranged marriage, but it's going to actually be with this guy Carven that has this big reputation of being like really dark. He's in this different kind of the northern lands where it's very cold, and he was set to be the, you know, heir to be, you know, the next leader, but he went and he was in these wars, and he came back changed, and he basically kind of isn't going to be the next in line anymore, and he's ruling that area. And so she's kind of freaked out because she doesn't know anything about this guy. He's supposed to be ruthless and very dangerous. And so she is on her way there, and their carriage gets like attacked by lichens. And then another group of guys comes to like, you know, get her. And luckily her brothers had found out last minute about what was going on and basically like chased her down and rescue her, but one of them gets really badly injured, so she has to try and get him help, and they're really close to the castle where, you know, her betrothed is going to be. So she goes to find him, and he actually finds her first, and he is a vampire. He had changed when he was in the war. He had like killed this dragon and died, and he basically got brought back, and he's part vampire. And so he, you know, has basically secluded himself, but he has like an instant attraction to her blood it's like calling to him. He's very into her. And so he immediately like bites her and then basically goes and helps her brother and stuff. And so she finds out a little bit later that that's actually her betrothed. And so they end up kind of having their romance. They're going to get married. He had no idea that this arranged marriage was even happening. His father was like moving things around. He's trying to manipulate him. And so they basically kind of start there. She's going to be marrying him. Her brothers stay there for a while. All this stuff goes down. So there's a lot of world building, some interesting side characters that I really liked. There is a reveal of like why she is so special with her scent and everything to him. There's more to her that meets the eye that the other people, Jess, Mandy, and Jen just didn't really like that. So honestly, I really enjoyed this. I did have some issues with it. It was a little bit longer than it needed to be. So like the first half really went fast for me and the last half was kind of dragging out. And I think it's like her first real fantasy because when I looked at her backlist, she had like all alien romances. So I can kind of understand why it was a little, different for her. I also thought the language was a little bit too modern at points. And like they literally explain her wearing like panties, like in fantasy, like that doesn't really usually happen. So I don't know. It was just little things that took me out of the story. I thought that the pacing was a little bit too drawn out at the end, but I still really enjoyed it. So I ended up giving this 4 stars and I think like 2.5 chilies. Yeah, 2.5 chilies. Okay, so then I read Lord of Wicked Intentions by Lorraine Heath. This is the 3rd book in the Lost Lords of Pembroke series. This is not my favorite series by Lorraine Heath. They've all been like just kind of okay. They're solid 4-star reads. This one is another 4-star for me. I was highly anticipating this one because I was most excited about this brother because he was basically younger and they kind of like just left him when they went off and separate their separate ways. I'm not going to go into the reason for that because that was like the 1st and 2nd book. But he basically really went through a lot as a child, a lot of child abuse, living on the streets. He had to like make a name for himself and he ends up being very rich and successful, owning like his own gambling den and everything like that. So I really liked his character because he was like more broody and, like damaged, which is my favorite in historical romance. And then so we have, and that is Rafe. Sorry, that's Rafe. And then we have Evelyn, and she is pretty sheltered, very naive. She was actually an illegitimate daughter, but her father loved her, and he loved his mistress, her mother, more than like his marriage, basically. And so he basically took her in and raised her and just spoiled her. But he dies. He's had this, sickness for a while, and he dies. And the brother, his son is supposed to take care of her. But the son has some debts, and he hates her. She got all the love and attention, and he doesn't care about her. So he basically is going to sell her. She thinks he's like setting her up for a marriage. And really, he's like selling her as a mistress to settle his debts. So it's pretty messed up. And Rafe is there because he owes the debts to him. And so he's kind of there to show, because the brother wants to show him how he's going to be paying him. And he sees these guys and how she's going to be this, and she's gorgeous and beautiful, and she's going to be this guy's mistress. So he says, nope. And he basically buys her himself, basically settles the debts, and he gets her. But she has no idea that she's going to be his mistress. She thinks she's going to be working in his household if he's not marrying her. She has no idea. And so she shows up and realizes she's going to be the mistress. So we have the typical hero that's trying to fight his feelings for her. He does take a while to actually go through with like the full, sex with her, which I kind of appreciated. In this, he is very closed off to his brothers because he blames them for like leaving him and everything. And so I kind of wanted more of them coming together and working on the relationship. It was resolved at the end, but it was just very quickly done. But I really liked their connection. They had amazing chemistry. There were a lot of really sweet moments. But my problem is that I just don't really love the mistress trope. It's not my favorite, even though he was doing a lot of amazing things and sweet acts of care and stuff like that. it just didn't fully hit for me. So this just isn't really my favorite Lorraine Heath series. Honestly, it's still a good series. They were like all 4 stars. It's just not like her usual that I love. So again, I gave this 4 stars and 3 chilies. Okay, so then I finally came back to the Bridgerton series. I basically took a break from it. I was not getting blown away by these Bridgerton books. The last one kind of irritated me. So I finally am back. I was vlogging it, but really like I got kind of tired of vlogging it. So I'm just doing like, I'm still going to do like a set video on like my review for each Bridgerton book. So that should be coming out later this week. So I'll go into more detail on it there. But basically I read To Sir Phillip with Love, which is the 5th book in the Bridgerton series. And this one I did like more than the last one. It did take me a while to get into it. Like the first half, I wasn't fully into the hero. But with his actions and kind of what he does and opening up at the end, I really did like him by the end. So this is with, it's Eloise and Philip's romance. And Eloise is a spinster. She's about like 28. She's basically declined multiple marriage proposals. And after Penelope, her best friend, is marrying her brother, she realizes like she's alone now because she always thought they would just be kind of spinsters together. And so she's kind of worried. Phillip has been through a lot because he was married. He has twins. And the mother was very depressed. There's a lot of trigger warnings for depressed, attempted suicide, that kind of thing in this. Because she did try to take her life. And she ended up dying by a fever. And so I think she was like a distant cousin to Eloise. And so Eloise like basically sent a letter of, you know, condolences. And they ended up kind of having this like friendship kind of breakout where they're writing to each other for about a year, I believe. And he basically needs a mother for his kids and help out with that. So he kind of offers marriage to see if they would be a good fit. So she kind of like sneaks out after a ball because her family would have stopped her. And she kind of just randomly shows up. So she's there without a chaperone, which she has to finally kind of try and find a chaperone. And she's staying there for a few days. And the kids are kind of playing pranks on her, rebelling. So the things that I had issue with this is he seemed like he just wanted a wife to take care of his kids. He's a botanist. He just wanted to be involved in his work. And he was kind of pushing his kids away. So I didn't really love that, but you see the reasons for it later in the book. And so it made more sense to me. And I understood his actions. And, you know, like he does really like Eloise. And I loved Eloise's bubbly, fiery character. She's very inquisitive. She was really funny. So I really enjoyed that. And like later in the book, you find out, you know, when he reveals about his wife. And he also talks about the child abuse he had with his father. And he almost wanted to like hit his kids when they were acting out. So he didn't want to be like his father. So he really warmed up. I warmed up to him by the end of this book. So I ended up giving this one 4 stars and then like 2 chilies. So it was better than the last one, but I'm still not really blown away with the Bridgerton series. I just don't really get all the hype. I've read better historical romance. But anyways. Okay, so then I read an arc. I read King of the Cage by Mila Kane. This is actually my first book by her, and this is the first book in the Devil's Own series. This is an Irish mafia, and I loved this book. I was sucked in right from the jump. I was very into the characters. I loved the whole like setup. It was very good. Like I thought the writing was great. So this is about Bran and Giada, and Bran is kind of like the black sheep, you know, bad boy of the Irish family. He's kind of his dad's disappointment. You know, he's a fighter. He's like the 6'5", you know, long, beautiful hair, like badass, sexy Irish guy. And in this, he happens to kind of see Giada at a wedding they're at. It's one of the Italian mafia members' weddings. And he kind of locks eyes with her, and he is really into her. She has this guy that's like hitting on her nonstop. He's not taking no for an answer. And it's somebody her friend had been crushing on forever. So she was just disgusted. And he wasn't taking the hint. So she basically decides to kind of use this huge Irish guy to like get him to fuck off. And so she goes over and is like flirting with him, like kind of sitting on his lap. And then the guy comes and gets all confrontational. So they kind of get like basically agree to like box to fight. But Bran was like, but I want my prize, and my prize is you. And she's like, sure, you know, kind of like whatever, nothing's gonna happen. But he's ready, like he fights him, and she ends up leaving, but he's gonna take his prize. So he ends up like following her back to her house and everything. So these two have insane chemistry, but stuff that's going on at the same time here is there's kind of like this secret society of like these rich dudes that are involved in some shady ass shit, because there's this new drug out in the market that Bran's like, I think his sister got drugged, and it like takes away all their, it's not even just like the date rape drug, it's like fully takes away their like will or anything, like they can just make you do whatever they want type of thing. So it's a really dangerous and scary drug out there, and he wants to put a stop to this group. And so they kind of are investigating that together and kind of team up. But things kind of happen that, you know, Giada is she's a black cat, feisty, she's a hacker, she's a badass kind of heroine, and she's kind of getting involved a little too much and is going to be in danger, basically. So he's kind of, it's going to be a forced marriage in here, which I love a forced mafia marriage, because he has to do it to protect her. He's also going to try and get into this club by passing all these tests to kind of get in there from the inside. So I just really loved this. It was super spicy. It was really interesting, you know, exciting with like this whole secret society thing. So I really liked it. I liked all the side characters. So I had a really good time with this one. So I ended up giving this one 5 stars. And then it was 3 chilies. Okay, so then I read God of Ruin. I finally read this. This is Landon's romance. And this is one of the ones I was really nervous to read because I didn't love God of Wrath. I didn't like Jeremy very much in that. And Landon seemed worse. So like he's been kind of the villain through most of the series. This is the 4th book in the Gods of Legacy series. And he's very like psychopath, very manipulative. He's like plays everybody like chess pieces. He manipulates people. He uses people. So I didn't know how I was going to feel about Landon, but I actually freaking loved this book. I thought it was so interesting being in Landon's head and to kind of see things from his point of view. I did find it interesting because we do find out that his parents, you know, they knew something was off with him. And they had him, you know, see specialists and everything and therapists. And he did get diagnosed with antisocial disorder. He has narcissistic, you know, tendencies and psychopath kind of tendencies. So I felt like, you know, he can't control that. That's like, you can't change that kind of person and that disorder. So I think that's why I like this better, because Landon is who he is and he doesn't do things in a malicious, sometimes not malicious way. Like Jeremy was just being fucked up in that book and he was an asshole. So in this anyways, we have Mia, and she is actually Nikolai's sister. She's also a twin, and she wants revenge against Landon for things that he's done to Nikolai. And so her and her twin actually kind of infiltrate his like mansion for this party, and they have it set where they're going to have like this kind of Carrie moment where the blood's gonna dump on him in front of everybody while he's speaking. He ends up kind of catching her. She's wearing a mask because it's like a masked event. And they kind of have interaction in the bathroom, but he pretty much knows it's her. And she has befriended his twin, Brandon. So like later on, she's over there playing games with him and she's leaving, and she kind of freaks out because Mia is selectively mute because she had a traumatic event in her childhood. And so she's very scared of the dark and she gets panic attacks in certain situations. And so when she was going out to the car, like the woods in the dark was like creeping her out. And then like Landon came out of the woods. So she really freaked out and just kind of like froze. And he like was very entranced by her, like frozen like that. He is a sculptor. He's an artist. And so he's never really been that good at finishing projects. He's a genius at being an artist, but he's very like particular and a perfectionist. And so he hasn't really like found his muse yet. And he basically finds his muse in Mia. And he kind of makes her become his muse, kind of go back. They hang out like at this abandoned like house that he has. And they kind of get it on. They have like so many great interactions where like he learns sign language for her pretty quickly because he's pretty much genius. And they play chess together, which I always love chess. And he ends up kind of like wanting to explore her kinks and stuff. She's a virgin, but he didn't know that. And so he just becomes completely obsessed with Mia. But he has basically fucked over everybody in her family, and her group at her school. So like her brother is really unhinged in this book. And I'm so excited for Nikolai's book next because you just know stuff's going on with him and Brandon behind the scenes because he was really unhinged and he loses it with like Landon. He doesn't want Landon anywhere near his sister. So I really loved this. I thought it was so interesting being in Landon's head. I loved his connection with Mia. It was super spicy. I loved seeing like the parents and everything. One thing that was like a standout to me too was Aiden. It's my favorite, Aiden King. And he kind of talks about, Landon talks about how Aiden accepted him because Aiden does have those kind of tendencies as well. And so Aiden always accepted Landon and Eli because they're kind of alike like that. So I just love that. But anyways, I ended up giving this 5 stars. I am going to be posting my vlog soon, maybe next week, I think, where I'm going to go over this and God of Wrath. So I gave it 5 stars and 4 chilies. Okay, the last book that I read was a quick little novella. This was Ice and Sweet by Charlie Novak, and this was an like holiday novella. It was really cute, sweet, quick read. This is between Luke and Andre, and they've basically had crushes on each other. They've been mutually pining after each other for years. But Luke was actually fake dating. Andre used to be in like this boy band when they were, younger or whatever. Now he's like doing plays and musicals and stuff. But basically Luke was an actor at that time. Now he's a baker. He opened up his own like bakery and is very into making cakes and all that kind of stuff. But like he was set up to fake date Andre's like, boy band, another guy in the boy band. So it's like one of their friends. So that's how they met. And Andre like had a crush on him, but he was dating that guy, but he just didn't know that it was fake dating. Well, now it's that same friend's wedding. And so they actually run into each other, have a cute little meet cute again. They're kind of seeing each other again after a while because, they've been busy with their jobs and everything. And so now it's like time for them to like admit their feelings for each other. And they kind of get snowed in, like stuck at this, inn where they're having the wedding. So they spend a couple days together and then they're going to continue their, like seeing each other, and it's going to carry on through the holidays. So you get some Christmas stuff too. So this was pretty spicy. It was a great sweet little romance, very low angst and cute. So if you're looking for something, I think it's like just under 200 pages, type of thing. I think this is a really cute one. So I ended up giving it 4 stars and 3 chilies. Okay, so those are all the books that I read this week. Thank you so much for watching this. I'm trying to catch up on all my arcs because I have so many arcs due in the beginning of December. Crystal is doing the romantasy readathon, so I want to get those done so I can start reading some fantasies. So hopefully you guys are joining us for that. It's going to be for December 1st through the 25th. So hopefully you guys check that out. Anyways, thank you so much for watching this video. As always, make sure you hit that subscribe button, leave me a comment and like the video. And I will see you guys on the next one.